Pirates. This is your 25th broadcast.
Ooh.
Show number 12. Coming at you. All hail Peter Bonder.
I'm on work with me tablet. And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another edition of the Experience Hockey Talk, serious hockey talk for serious hockey fans. And for some reason, I completely missed the cue of when to start talking during the music.
And then it just abruptly ended. That was pretty funny, actually. But
we're all allowed to miss cues from time to time.
Hey, we are human.
Yep. So, of course, as always, ladies and gentlemen, you can hear us on the WBGR Sports Network at WBGRSports.com and on the new WBGR app, which you can get on both Google Play and iTunes. And you can watch us live on Facebook Live on the WBGR Sports Network Facebook page and on the Experience Hockey Talk Facebook page, which for some reason Facebook is giving me fits. They don't want me to share the greatness with all of you. Bernie Deal, take it away so I can try to figure this out.
Well, I think Facebook's just continually trying to put new stuff in when they should just stick to the basics. It's much easier to follow. But we're going to talk Eastern Conference Finals. Cap set. No, we're not. But we got Eastern Conference Finals. Hershey Bears and another sore subject. Hershey lost 2 home games, up 3-2 against Providence this week. So we're not going to be talking Eastern Conference Finals in the AHL either, Michael.
No, but I mean we do have
some Stingrays.
But we do have very exciting East and West conference finals in the NHL. Obviously, last week we were behind an hour. We didn't, so those who missed us on a normal time, we apologize for that. But we do want to say that I predicted that Pittsburgh would beat Ottawa in 4 to 5 games. Yeah. They're going to a Game 6, guaranteed.
Yeah, and I was feeling pretty good about my Sens in 6 and Ducks in 7. I feel a little bit better about the Ducks in 7. The Sens in 6 all going to hinge on tomorrow afternoon in Pittsburgh. But it's the thing I saw about the Senators, and I did a little research this week on it. The Caps only played 3 games against Ottawa this year and only scored 3 goals in the 3 games. Can you name the 3 goal scorers, Michael? I'm
gonna say Jay Beagle.
Nope.
Okay, Daniel Winnick.
No.
Batman.
Almost.
Okay.
TJ Oshie, first minute of the game, the first road game in Ottawa, and the 1-0 game that Braden Holtby stood on his head on. Then they lost 3-0 later, but then the New Year's Day game, Carl Alsner and Taylor Chorney with the goals in the 2-1 game against Ottawa. I was like, yeah, that would have been a very interesting series had the Caps gotten through to the finals, the way that Ottawa pretty much locked them down for most of the 3 games that they played in the regular season. So, and you can see with the 4 games so far against the Penguins, the hitting has definitely picked up in that series as well, big time. Pittsburgh lost another defenseman last night, Chad Weedle. Got drilled by Bobby Ryan. That was an unfortunate hit. Of course,
it was a clean hit too.
I
was watching the hit, and the biggest thing that people need to get off their high horses about is that the way Bobby Ryan came into Weedle was simple. And for those watching on Facebook Live, it's actually easy to do. So I'm going to stand up just a little bit for our. Bobby Ryan's arm is into his body like this. He never lifts the elbow up like that. He goes in and he literally hits like that. Clean hit. It's a clean hit. You can't you can't say it was a dirty hit. I mean, unfortunately, though, for Ruedel, he was in a very bad position. That was the key thing that really hurt him. He was in a prone position, and you can see also when Bobby Ryan put his elbow and his arm into his own body, you can see that was a way of him trying to let up on the hit.
Absolutely, that was the huge part in my eyes. Now I did watch it back a couple times, especially on the NHL Network highlight feed. They usually show you a lot of different angles on it. They did miss a call on that play. Derek Brassard hit Ruedel with a high stick, which caused his helmet to go up on him and caused him to lose his balance going into the boards, which left him in a very unfortunate position for Bobby Ryan to come in. Like you said, the elbow is right up against. If the elbow's anywhere, if you see any space between the body and the elbow, that call is
an elbow
justified.
Yeah.
But with all the force, hey, it's a contact sport. You know, it's just like with the Ovechkin high stick and the Crosby cross check. Everyone wanted Ovechkin to get a major. The Pittsburgh black and gold glasses wearers out there want Ovechkin to be suspended for 4 games, and they wanted Bobby Ryan's head on a plate last night. I'm just like, take the glasses off for a second. You guys should have had a power play. Ian Cole. I mean, it was justified that Ian Cole got the only penalty on the play. But it should have been 4-on-4 technically with the high stick that was missed. But
yeah, and it's unfortunate. And this is also a very battered and bruised Penguins team. And you know, it's funny because Rob Rossi, the fine gentleman from Pittsburgh who tried calling out Trotz and did an amazing wrestling promo,
brother.
He actually said that if the Penguins lose this series, it's on Mike Sullivan. Which is ridiculous because, and here's the thing, Mike Sullivan is a very good coach.
You wouldn't have a Stanley Cup
without
you
wouldn't
Mike
have
Sullivan.
a Stanley Cup without Mike Sullivan's coaching. But the other thing is, and this is something that people also need to understand, is that is that the Penguins, as I've just mentioned, are so battered and bruised. I didn't notice until I actually looked into it, but for the Pittsburgh Penguins, of all their defensemen, if you don't include Mark Streit, none of them have any Norris votes amongst them on the current lineup right now. If you take out Letang, yeah, that's unheard of. The last time that happened was like 2000. Was when the Carolina Hurricanes won.
06.
Yeah.
Against Edmonton.
Yeah. Or no.
Or was it
Or it's either that
against Edmonton.
Yeah.
Or was it 02 when they lost to Detroit?
Or it might have been 03 with the Ducks with Tverdovsky, because they're talking about Oleg Tverdovsky being the only one,
right.
But he was out injured. But, you know, if you look at that, it's like, that's insane. That's the type of defense Pittsburgh's having to play with right now.
Yeah, and if they keep getting hurt, I wouldn't be surprised if you saw Derek Pouliot get a sweater eventually. I mean, they've gone down to Chad Ruedel. I mean, you got Justin Schultz out. Daly's not 100%. Dumoulin's, I bet he's hurt in some way, shape, or form. Obviously, Ruedel, like we just said. Daly is gutting it out. I can see him coming out with some sort of an injury after the season ends. There's not much in the way of fresh bodies. But at the same time, you blame Mike Sullivan? Yeah, Mike Sullivan has single-handedly has been the thing that genius about what Sullivan's done is he's been able to integrate the Wilkes-Barre guys throughout the lineup, up and down the lineup, and that's one thing I've had a criticism about the way the lines were here in DC all year. They kept the same lines through. Every so often, you got to mix and match to see because you're going to have injuries, especially in the playoffs. You got to see how different combinations look, even if it's for a game or two or even for a period or two. You see Scott Wilson up with Malkin, and then he's down with Cullen and Roney. You see Gensel up on the top line with Crosby the first 2 rounds. He's down with Nick Bodino now. I mean, it's just a lot of interchangeable parts, and everything Sullivan's putting together, including making the switch to Matt Murray last night, who came up with 2 huge saves when it was scoreless, that kept Ottawa from getting back into that mode where we've always talked about the first goal is so critical in series like this.
Yeah, and not only that, but the other thing is that now you got to look at the top end of Pittsburgh Penguins. On the top end of the Pittsburgh Penguins, they're missing Brian Rust, Patrick Hornquist, Connor Sherry's probably playing with concussion. Sidney Crosby's probably playing with a concussion. Carl Hagelin's been in and out of the lineup.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's so their offensive core is very battered and bruised at the same time.
Yeah, you got Josh Archibald played his first NHL playoff game last night, and just another interchangeable piece. And I mean, they could go down even further. I think the kid Day is down there. I think he could be put in certain situations as well. And I mean, there's no rhyme or reason. You know, as Caps fans, we're not very. The Penguins are definitely on the number one most hated list, but at the same time, being that we are talking hockey and being general about it, you have to take your red-colored glasses off and realize that the Penguins, just like the Capitals organization and several organizations across the NHL, including Nashville Predators with the Milwaukee Admirals for so many years, these teams have it not just in the big club, but also going through the system in place. I mean, Hershey, constantly competitive in the AHL. Wilkes-Barre, same way. You see what Philadelphia is now doing now that they have their team back close to home in Lehigh Valley. That's starting to, with a brand new building up in Allentown. So you see these teams starting to get their minor league teams closer to seeing what the model has already been set with some of these perennial powers.
Right. And, you know, and then you look at an Ottawa Senators team, really their biggest injury is Erik Karlsson with his foot, but it's not showing.
He doesn't look injured to me.
He looks like Superman.
He is definitely the epitome of guts personified. I've grown to appreciate Erik Karlsson's game even more this playoff season, and Dion Phaneuf is playing like he did in Calgary, minus the offensive touch. I mean, he's fine. He's being that lockdown defenseman until last night. Probably one of the best defensemen in the playoffs.
Yeah, and then when you move over to the Western Conference, you know, first Nashville lost Kevin Fiala due to that gruesome, you know, thigh injury.
Yes, ouch.
Now Ryan Johansson is out for 2 to 3 months. He's done for the playoffs, and now you also have the prospect of being without Mike Fisher because he never came back for overtime.
Johansson already had the surgery. He had the surgery as they were announced the day they announced the thing. It's like, oh, by the way, he's already had the surgery.
Yeah, so it's like, wow, it's
Vernon Fiddler, paging Vernon Fiddler. You are needed for big minutes tonight.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because it's like, you know, Nashville, you know, is one of those teams where you really think that this is going to be their year, and now they're starting to lose key guys on their offense. And you know, like we also said, you know, for tonight, you know, Mike Fisher is still very questionable. We don't know what's going to happen with him.
If it was 3-1 Ducks, I could definitely see Fisher trying to get in no matter how bad the injury is. At 2-2, I'm almost inclined to err on the side of caution tonight if he's not anywhere close, especially since you have you don't have that last line change where you can pick and choose where to put him to minimize the injury impact. Maybe you sit Mike Fisher this game and put some young, fresh legs in there that haven't been in the playoffs yet. Granted, it's going to be a crazy atmosphere in Anaheim at 7:15 on NBC after the Preakness, but it's going to. I mean, Nashville is going to be like next man up. I mean, yeah, you lose a Ryan Johansson, you lose a Kevin Fiala, but every team that gets to the Cup, rarely you see a team get through unscathed without at least one huge mountain to climb personnel-wise. Right. And this is their mountain to climb. You know, Ryan Johansson has grown up as a number one center this year in Nashville.
And with that said, Anaheim has no injuries really to talk about. So with that, we're going to go to break, and when we come back, we're going to play a little devil's advocate.
This should be good.
So we'll be right back after this break.
Attention hockey fans, you want serious hockey talk? Then listen to the Experience Hockey Talk on
That's the wrong one.
WBGR Sports
three.
Network.
No, 3 is supposed to be the last one.
And Bernie Deal as
supposed to be the first
the past week for the Washington Capitals,
7,
NHL, and
then 8,
WHL.
then 3.
You can listen to the Experience.com.
Because that's promoting the show.
Sports Network Facebook for that little treasure in Germantown, Maryland will look no further than the Dutch family restaurant located at 12613 Wisteria.
No, that's 3. That's the one that's supposed to be playing.
That's
7.
The Dutch one.
That's
the Dutch.
Oh, there, yeah, that's 7 right
I was
there.
gonna say that's the Dutch family market.
Yeah. Now that's the
So it's 783.
Yeah, 783.
And to see their menu visit them
Actually
on
worked because you
Facebook.
got the
Yeah.
promo of the show and you got the promo of the restaurant in one commercial break. That was perfect.
Yeah, exactly. Why won't it let me comment on?
It doesn't like your comments. No, I'm kidding.
No, it won't let me post comments on as the page on the WBGR page.
Facebook.
Won't let you do what?
It won't.
Facebook is screwing up so big.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, they're trying to do too much
They
instead
sent a
of
letter. They sent a letter out. I don't
simplifying
know if you
stuff.
got it. You cannot play any music that we don't know. You know, it's like, what in the world?
Yeah, they're getting too big for their high horse.
Yeah, they are. I think I'm gonna move everything to live streaming. People just gonna have to
All right. Well,
do that extra click.
And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Experience Hockey Talk, serious hockey talk for serious hockey fans. And ladies and gentlemen, we do encourage you to call in at 301-429-9247. The fact that I was able to read that phone number backwards off of the phone in selfie mode is fantastic. I have some skills, people. I have some skills. Bernie's just like, you don't have skills.
Wow. Okay.
But like I said before we're going, real quick, we want to thank Crimson Orchard and the band I Shine for the music that you listen to here on the show. Also, quick shout out to geekyjerseys.com for this jersey that I'm actually wearing. I actually won this in a Twitter contest, and you can also win a jersey as well. I'm a huge Batman fan, so I'm actually really happy with this jersey.
Awesome. I wanted to go positive here today, so I went my hangs with Bob so I can get better shirt. So, Bob Evans, thank you for the shirt.
And then, but as I mentioned before we went to the break, we are playing some Devil's Advocate. First Devil's Advocate topic. Barry Trotz has 1 year left on his contract with the Washington Capitals as the head coach. With that also said, Todd Reardon is in the running for the head coaching position in both Buffalo and Florida. Lane Lambert could possibly take one of the positions as well, or leave as an assistant as the potential to get better position at another team. Daryl Sutter is available. Could the Washington Capitals do what the St. Louis Blues did last season, where they brought in Mike Yeo to be there as, well, one, everyone knew Mike Yeo was taking over for Ken Hitchcock starting 18-19. Obviously that changed. Ken Hitchcock got fired. Mike Yeo took over. Could a similar scenario be played going into the 17-18 season for the Washington Capitals behind the bench?
It could be a possibility, and developing my own little BAGM thing where I've pretty much been planting and plotting. I'm still working on some numbers and everything, so next couple weeks I'll do what I'd do if I were Brian McClellan with this whole organization. But with the Barry Trotz situation, you brought up a great point. Todd Reardon, who I said last week will be the head coach at Buffalo just because of his ties with Jason Botterill, whether unless Dale Talon pulls the rabbit out of his hat and Todd Reardon blows him away with his second interview down in Florida, I just think that fit with Reardon and Botterill in Buffalo is a match that it should happen. I mean, if you want Buffalo to take that next step with your whole management team and click on one line, you can. I mean, Botterill knows Reardon from Wilkes-Barre and everything like that. So, and Pittsburgh. So definitely that's a great match. And then, like you said, Lane Lambert, who was a finalist for the Colorado Avalanche job last year, he could be on the move. He could go. Todd Reardon might ask permission to have him come with him. I mean, you bring up Daryl Sutter. I'm going to throw another name out there, and he's still coaching in the playoffs right now. Phil Housley, former Capitals defenseman, and a guy that has coached on the national team stage for I think he coached the World Juniors to a gold medal. Correct me if I was wrong on that one. He could be a guy, and he's the guy that knows knows a power play. He's got that power play cooking down in Nashville. He's a guy that could be in play, especially if something happens and Barry Trotz is relieved of his duties, because he really has no one left in his coaching stable. Now, a lot of ifs and buts could happen. Reardon might not get the job. Doubtful that will happen. I think Reardon will be a head coach. I mean, Lambert, you never know. And then, of course, Mitch Korn could retire if everything starts going south. You know, with 1 year left on Trotz's deal, you never know.
Yeah, and actually an interesting point about Phil Housley. One, I'd love to see him back here. He was actually rumored to potentially be an assistant coach to Barry Trotz initially when Barry came to the Washington Capitals 3 years ago. But Phil Housley's name is also being tossed around in Buffalo because he has ties to the Buffalo Sabres. His name's been thrown around also in Florida. There was talk about him maybe going to Las Vegas before Gerard Gallant was hired. So it's very interesting to see. Phil Housley would be great. I mean, especially for, in another aspect, you look at Darryl Sutter, he's more offense. He would probably be more on the offensive side of things. Whereas Phil Housley, as a former defenseman, he would be on the defensive side of things. Phil Housley would probably be a better fit to replace a Todd Reardon, whereas if Darryl Sutter could be a better fit to replace a Lane Lambert.
Could be. I saw Sutter's more of a defensive type of guy at times, with especially in his time with Calgary and first parts of time with LA. It's a dichotomy you have to work out. I mean, is Barry Trotz be comfortable with that? I mean, you're going to just have to move Darryl Sutter into the head coaching spot right away. I mean, there's a lot of little interchangeable pieces, and still to this day, Brian McClellan has still not done his end-of-year press conference, which leads more and more speculation to the point where there's a lot going on behind the scenes that once he does come out and talk, which he usually does after every year, it's going to be a very interesting day when that press conference is eventually announced.
Which leads me to Devil's Advocate topic number 2. Alex Ovechkin. What we talked about a little bit last week. We talked about a couple, I talked about maybe taking the captaincy off as him, putting it on somebody like a Nicholas Backstrom or a Brooks Orpik, or even if they can re-sign him, a Justin Williams. I believe you also mentioned if we can re-sign him, a TJ Oshie, putting the captaincy on him. Now the big question is that, again, we're playing devil's advocate. We're talking in hypotheticals. We're not saying this is what's going to happen. I already had somebody rip me on Facebook about that yesterday.
It wasn't me.
It wasn't a Bernie. It was somebody else. Agree to disagree, okay? Agree to disagree. But could one of the big topics be Alex Ovechkin being traded? Or pulling an Ilya Kovalchuk and voluntarily retiring and going to the KHL?
Wow. Isn't that the $1 million question in the room, or the big elephant?
Yeah.
I almost feel like every devil's advocate thing you come up with, we need like a sound effect, like a dun 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 or something right before you introduce the actual topic. It's crazy.
Hey, serious hockey talk for serious hockey fans. You got to play a little devil's advocate from time to time.
Now, I love the sound effect would make it even more perfect. Be like, devil's advocate number 2, dun dun dun. Alex Ovechkin, what do we do?
Because we did tackle the topic last week about maybe taking the captaincy off of him. This week, we're now tackling the topic of, do we trade him or does he retire and go KHL like Ilya Kovalchuk did?
I'll give you another option that I just thought about on the drive in this morning. Alex Ovechkin, for the first time in forever, didn't go to the World Championships.
Because they didn't want him.
Because he was hurt.
No, it actually had nothing to do with injury. A report actually came out saying that they weren't interested in having Ovechkin. The reason they did the whole injury report was because they had to go through the motions, because everyone expected them to bring Alex Ovechkin over to Germany and France for the World Championships.
Well, Alex Ovechkin should have been honest with himself and knowing that he wasn't 100% to give to the team that he wants to get a Stanley Cup with, to the point where it's like, hey, I've represented Russia so many times. Let these younger kids go over that are healthier and try to win it for Russia this year. I think they're playing Canada as we speak. But,
last I checked before we went on the air, Russia is up 1-0.
Wow, 1-0.
And it was, I believe, an Evgeny Kuznetsov goal.
Yep. And I definitely agree with our good friend Tony Alcott, who has been keeping us up to trip with the South Carolina Stingrays as well as the Hershey Bears. And you can't get where is the equal value to trade an Ovechkin? It's not. Does LA trade Anze Kopitar for him? Which I
no.
The
biggest talk is that if because I've heard the LA Washington talk before. If you're to do LA Washington, do you know who would be coming in that trade? It'd be Marian Gaborik.
Nope.
And you don't want to touch that contract. But one team, and I was reading, I believe it was Stars and Stripes, or Sticks and Stripes. I was reading their article, and they had a thing for 5 teams that Ovechkin could go to. Number 1 being, the Florida Panthers, because, well, he has a place down in Miami. So, convenience. Another one was Arizona. Arizona was the most interesting one of them all, because with Arizona, you can get a lot of prospects, you can get a lot of picks, but the thing is, and Arizona has been well known for taking big salaries. Pavel Datsyuk, Chris Pronger, although these guys never played for them.
Yeah, this one will actually play in Purdue still.
But the question is, would Alex Ovechkin play for the Arizona Coyotes, a team that is still on the up, that is trying to turn things around? And that's the downside to that, because he does submit a list and say, these are the teams I'm not going to get traded to.
Yep, and I also think that Arizona, if I were, like I said, I were the GM, the trade would center around Clayton Keller coming to DC, and I don't think Arizona's going to do that. Clayton Keller is a guy, I mean, you see in the World Championships with Team USA, the kid is going to be something special in Arizona starting next year with Domi, with Duclair, with Ryan McGinnis is coming eventually. Big center iceman that's gonna son of former Islander Marty McGinnis. That's crazy. Now we got people that we were watching in the 80s and 90s. Their sons are playing in the NHL now.
We have Garrett Pilon, and
we are old.
And Hershey, who was the son of Rich Pilon of the Islanders.
Yep.
Who wore the infamous fisherman jersey, which I still love that jersey.
But you're gonna be like I said with LA. It's gonna be you gotta be going after a Kopitar. You're not gonna get Doughty, but you have to go after a Kopitar type player. You have to go for a marquee type player on the return for an Ovechkin. But the thing I was pointing out before with the not going to the World Championships for once gives him a whole off season to rehab the groin, the hamstring, and the knee, and get himself back into hockey shape quicker. Plus, I heard also, I think it was on NHL Network, they were talking about how as some of these guys get older, I think it was actually my friend Chris Russell was talking about this, where as these guys are getting in their 30s and are still playing better, like the Bill Guerins and Mike Modano's, now Jaromir Jagr, they've taken some poundage off. So maybe Ovechkin might want to lose 5 to 10 pounds of that 230-pound frame of his and make himself a half a step quicker, make himself a half a step more in tune with how the game is coming along, just reinvent himself just enough, because remember, after that 32-goal season everyone was complaining about, he ripped off another 50-goal season right after that. So whenever Ovechkin's been doubted is when he comes out blazing the next year. So I think I pretty much think there's big things coming for Alex Ovechkin next year if he does the right things this off season from a training standpoint.
And that's a key thing that we need to look at. In what is Alex Ovechkin? We know right now he's laying around on a beach. Because we've seen
watching the Russian game right now.
Yeah, he's probably watching the Russian game laying on a beach somewhere in Miami, because that's all the Instagram photos have been coming from. But I mean, it's just what it is. Now, of course, it's 2-1 Russia right now with a little less than maybe, I'm going to say 6 minutes left in the period, because Tony posted that about maybe 2 minutes ago. So it looks like Russia, unless Canada pulls a big comeback, will be playing in the championship game for the World Championships right now.
Well, the thing is, Mike, was you go back to their quarterfinal game, and I don't watch too much of the World Championship thing, but it was on the TV at my day job, and I got to see Philip Grubauer's audition to become the Vegas Golden Knights starting goalie next year against Canada.
He had a heck of a game.
Being that Gerard Gallant is standing behind the Canadian bench as an assistant coach. So talk about a bird's eye view of who you could have as your starting goaltender. I could only imagine the phone call between him and George McPhee after the game was like, we got to get this guy.
Now, let's talk about Grubauer. We got to play devil's advocate on this.
Number three.
Devil's advocate number 3. Grubauer gets selected, in the expansion draft, who now becomes the backup goaltender to Braden Holtby?
Well, first of all,
And we can't bring back Ole Kolzig. As much as we want to bring him back, we can't have Ole Kolzig back behind the puck.
True. And, well, first thing would be thinking about bringing up Phoenix Copley. But
Who's
I don't know if you've
unrestricted, by the
heard
way.
about why he left Game 4 against Providence. I got this news this morning. The muscle tore off the bone in the groin area on the goal that gave Providence a 2-1 lead in Game 4. And that's why he was screaming in pain. If he's healthy, exactly, Tony, if he's healthy, he could be your backup.
But
Or-
he's unrestricted, though.
yeah, the thing I would do is bring in a veteran behind Braden Holtby that's not going to cost you much, because you can get backup goaltenders later on in free agency relatively inexpensive, knowing that, hey, you're gonna play 25, maybe 30 games next year. Maybe they dial back Holtby's workload a little bit. I would give Phoenix Copley a full year in Hershey to play and be that guy that you call up in case someone gets dinged, because you know you have Samsonov still in the KHL doing wonderful things over there.
And Vidic Vanasek is going to have to get her time in Hershey as well.
They're going to have to do almost like a timeshare down there, where both guys are going to have to get their workload. But you're also going to have to make that decision. Do you go with Phoenix Copley as your backup, or do you give both of them equal time down in Hershey and bring in a veteran backup? That's what I would do. So I would bring in someone about $850,000, $900K, the backup Holtby that has been around the NHL. And, I mean, you see, like, Ante Ranta and the Rangers, I mean, given a second chance, and he shined pretty nicely this year and could be going with Phil Grubauer to Vegas this year.
And actually, one name that I've seen tossed around as a potential guy who could be brought in via free agency is Keith Kincaid.
Yeah, we've seen a little of Keith Kincaid this year.
Yeah, and Keith Kincaid actually, backed up Marty Brodeur, backed up Corey Schneider. So he has experience backing up big-name goaltenders, and might be able to part some knowledge of being behind a Marty Brodeur to Braden Holtby, which actually would be an advantage for Braden, because that's experience. That's advice and experience that he's getting.
And you're bringing in a guy that's been in your division. And I think he played all but one of the games against the Caps this year. I think Schneider only played one game against them in New Jersey. Kincaid got the starts all the rest of the times. And you bring in a guy that's been in the division, that knows the Caps, but also knows the rest of the division, and he's going to be called on to spot start at times against the Philadelphia, against the Carolina, against the Columbus, maybe even. You never know. Depending on how the schedule sets up, you never know what back-to-backs are going to be there. I mean, you're going to have to preserve your ace in the hole, Braden Holtby. So we'll see where everything lays out with that. But 3 devil advocates so far. You got a fourth one?
Actually, I don't. Those were my only 3
All
devil
right, well,
advocates. You want to come up with devil's advocate?
No, like I said, I'm devising my little general manager plan, and the next couple of weeks I'll go step by step through it. And like I said, hey guys, we're looking forward to call. Hopefully, maybe Tony call in next week. Definitely
All right,
get
how about
you to
Tony
be
call in today?
be the GM for.
Why do we have to have the people call in next week?
Well, I was going to give Tony a week to get his general manager plan set up.
And it's 2-2 with 4:43 left.
I was going to give Tony
the game between Russia and Canada. Thank you for that, Tony.
I was going to, being that Tony's doing so much with keeping us up to, I was going to give him a week to get his general manager plan in place. But anyone who has a quick whip about Ovechkin, about Holtby, about Trotz, about anybody else on the Capitals organization, if you want to talk Stanley Cup playoffs, call us. What is the number, Michael, again?
It is 301-429-9247, and this time I actually got to read it the proper way and not backwards, because Lionel Lester Green actually posted it in one of the Facebook Lives, so I'm actually able to read it.
And as always, we thank Lionel Green and the great people here at WBGR for giving us the platform to bring hockey to you even in the off-season, as we'll be your only place to get hockey talk for a full hour in the local area for the next 3 to 4 months.
All right, and with that, we're going to go to a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we will do a little NWHL, AHL, and other stuff.
A little potpourri.
Looking for that little country every time I will look no further than the Dutch
When you had the nice pause between double advocate number 1, I'm like waiting for like a dun 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 or a boom or something like those little lip sound effects.
When I recorded as a podcast, actually when I did news and notes, I did news and notes as its own separate segment.
Right.
and I actually would put in like a news breaking news sound effect in there, but that was because I was able to edit in there.
Right. I tell you, I finally started putting my long break right now.
Oh, this was a. They keep in mind the other ones had like 2 little blurbs, whereas this one's just.
You did 3 to 7. You did 3 and 7 in one shot.
Yeah, that's also why you did 3 in the first one.
11:35.
Yeah. So we're gonna free roam this one.
I'm gonna start training.
Get some calls.
Yeah, to work this.
Dixon. Love it.
I mean, it's easy, simple. Camera and
And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Experience Hockey Talk, serious hockey talk for serious hockey fans. And ladies and gentlemen, we encourage you, ask us questions on Facebook Live and also call us at 301-429-9247. We will answer your questions. Or if, we'll just answer your questions. I don't know. There was an or if, but then I just completely...
Questions?
Yeah, there you go. Or if you have
Anecdotes.
comments, there you go.
Thanks
Thanks for filling the blank there,
We
Bernie.
got jokes for you, senor. But you got some NWHL stuff to cover real quick?
So, 2 weeks ago, I started covering the free agency. Right now, they're in restricted free agency, which means players can only re-sign with the teams that they had played with the season before. I had already talked about Katie Fitzgerald and Tatiana Rafter re-signing with the New York Riveters. The New York Riveters have also re-signed Rebecca Russo, a forward for them. The Connecticut Whale have re-signed forward Kelly Babstock, defenseman Sydney Rossler and Elena Orlando, and goaltender Sydney Rossman. But for Boston and Buffalo, they have not re-signed any players just yet, but the Boston Pride do have a new coach. Bobby J has left the team to focus on his business. He led Boston to a 2016 Isabel Cup championship and to the 2017 Isabel Cup championship game where they lost to the Buffalo Beauts. The new coach is Thomas Polk, who used to play in the NHL. He played like a max of like 122 games. I was doing a quick look back on him real quick. And he's had a 14-year playing career, and he's from Austria. And
Islanders, didn't he?
I believe so. I don't know. I didn't have that type of information.
Name does ring
But
a
he
bell.
did. But he did go to college in the Boston area. And also, we want to do a shout out to Anya Badalino. She's the director of the NWHL Players Association and also a member of the Connecticut Whale. She is actually now following the show on Twitter. And she also sent us a private message thanking her for the follow that we do as well. We appreciate the follow, and we can't wait to work with you and the rest of the players and coaches in the NWHL next season. Obviously, we're going to still continue to keep an eye on what you do in the NWHL during your off season, because we know that on the 31st, restricted free agency ends, and then unrestricted free agency begins.
They get a month jump start on the NHL's wacky season. That is free agency. And AHL, like I mentioned at the start of the show, Hershey Bears with Madison Valley's overtime game winner in Game 5 set up beautifully to come home Tuesday or Wednesday at Giant Center and finish the deal against the Providence Bruins. They actually, I think they're up 2-0 in Game 6, and then everything went off the rails, and Providence went in, beat Hershey in Game 6 and in Game 7, and now they are in the off season as well. So good season for Troy Mann and the boys up in Hershey, but like their parent team, the Washington Capitals, they were 8-9 wins short of hoisting another cup down there in Chocolate Town.
And I know you want to talk a little ECHL because of the Stingrays.
Yep, Stingrays came with a huge win, and Tony Alcott has been my info master when it comes to that.
He hasn't been your info master. He's been our
info
master.
And
Tony, you don't belong to Bernie. You belong to everybody.
Well, I appreciate all the stuff that he's added through our little group of True Caps fans on one of the groups that I moderate on Facebook, and he's brought stuff to us every game of all of them. And you can listen to the South Carolina Stingrays still, I think, on the Caps Radio Network. So be able to catch tonight. I think is at 6:00 on down up in Manchester. It's a weird schedule. The first 3 games were in South Carolina, and the last 4 were in Manchester because of scheduling conflict up there in New Hampshire. So
great. Well, they did have Monday Night Raw, or was it SmackDown Live?
Yeah, I think it was
SmackDown Live that they had up there.
So yeah, I think that was game 3. So, but hey, you encounter this more in the AHL and in the ECHL than you do in the NHL, but you've seen it at times in the NHL. Yanni comes to prevalence way back when, but usually the NHL has a pretty good grasp of their arenas, making sure that they have flexibility in their acts that they have coming in during playoff times. Same with the NBA, as you saw with the Chris Brown concert, got moved a couple days away so the Caps could play a game. I think it was Game 5 against Toronto. They had to move the concert till Sunday. So it's all about making sure the arenas are available so you aren't having 3 days off between games, which leads us to the Stanley Cup final schedule that got released.
Let's just put it like this. Whatever series it is, it better end on June 11th one way or the other, because we are recording on June 14th. Because I have a very busy week that week. I'm also filming on the 15th as well for the DCHL.
There'll be ways to take care of business every week here on the Experience Hockey Talk.
So the NHL last night, I think at like 1 in the morning, I've been having trouble sleeping, so it's like I've been getting these news as it's happening, announced their Stanley Cup final schedule. Game 1 will be Monday, May 29th, followed by Game 2, Wednesday, May 31st. Then they take 2 days off for game, and then Game 3 will be Saturday, June 3rd. And then they have 1 day off, and then Game 4 will be Monday, June 5th. And then if there's a Game 5, they take another 2 days off and don't come back till Thursday, June 8th. And then 2 days off, Sunday, June 11th, which is when the series better end. And then if there's a Game 7, 2 days off, Wednesday, June 14th. Now, as I mentioned, one way or the other, we have to record on June 14th. Because that's what's going to air on June 17th. So that's why I'm saying I want the finals to be done on the 11th, because we can get away with that one. I prefer it to be done on the 8th, because I'd rather us talk about it on the 10th.
Well,
that's personal preference. But an interesting thing to note, if Pittsburgh moves on, they automatically get home ice. If Anaheim moves on and Ottawa moves on, Ottawa gets home, or Anaheim gets home ice. If Nashville and Ottawa move on, Ottawa gets home ice. No matter what, Nashville will not get home ice in this entire thing because they are technically the 8th seed of the Western Conference.
Well, it's just most points. Points, unlike baseball until this year when they finally changed it, where the winner of the All-Star game got the home field advantage instead of the team with the best record. In the NHL, it's most points. You got home ice regardless of where you sat in the standings in your division and your conference. You earned the right to host Game 1, and with the schedule, everything was fine and dandy until you got to Game 5. I mean, because we talked off air before the show. Usually it was Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday was your NHL Stanley Cup final games. You could set your watch, you could set your schedule, your calendar, your watch, and your vacation time toward that. Last year and this year, they've gone more to having 2 days off between the travel days on Game 5, 6, and 7. Very interesting way, especially with Game 6 being on Sunday. That's usually an NBA Finals night.
Well, that game could be like a 3 p.m. game.
No, usually all those games.
Yeah, I know. Normally all games are 8 p.m., but if it's like that and they know that they're going up against the NBA, they might put that at 3 p.m. But at the same time, and this is the one thing that peeves me a little bit about this, is the fact that if they go to a Game 7, the two teams that go to Game 7 will have the least amount of time. I mean, yes, a lot of them have their lists and all this other stuff, but they'll have the least amount of time to prepare their unprotected lists, which have to be in by 5 p.m. June 17th. So, for all these teams, they're looking at it going like, man, or at least the 4 teams that are still in it, their general managers and the owners and the coaches are probably looking at it going like, man, if we're in the finals and we go to Game 7, we're only going to have really 2 days to really, maybe 2.5 days to really get our lists ready, because they still have to, say Pittsburgh makes it to the finals, which is something I want to talk about in a little bit with Marc-Andre Fleury. Instead of having a week to talk to Marc-Andre Fleury about waiving his no-move clause so they can protect Matt Murray, now they only have 2.5 days if they go to June 14th for a Game 7. That puts them in a very bad spot. I don't know about the situations for the other three teams, but we know that Pittsburgh is in a spot with their goaltending. And who we know they want to keep and who we know they want to get rid of.
Well, you look at the two teams in the Western Conference. Do Anaheim and Nashville want to go with the 7-3-1, or do they want to go with the 8 players? Because both those teams, bread and butters, with young players and young veteran players are concerned, are on the blue line. Where do they go with that? Who do they move? Does Cam Fowler get moved? Does Sami Vatanen get moved? I mean, they've both stocked their teams up well. San Diego and Milwaukee, the two farm teams, are well. You see this year with Anaheim, Brandon Montour coming up, Shea Theodore playing big minutes for him. They've proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that they're ready to play in the NHL. And then you got Anthony Bitetto down in Milwaukee for Nashville. You might see if Nashville loses a defenseman, but they've been losing a lot up front. Maybe you'll see a Salamaki tonight. Who knows? But it's going to be interesting, because I was looking at the schedule and I was trying to figure it out, that usually if they did the Monday, Wednesday, Saturday thing, Monday, June 12th would have been the last game of the season, which goes to your point that they had a full week to get their list, more of a full week to get prepared for the next wave of the NHL off season.
Yeah, which then, since we talked about it, let's talk about Marc-Andre Fleury. I think Marc-Andre Fleury kind of got the shaft. Looking at, here's the thing. For Game 3, Ottawa exploded.
Did they?
They were able to take that 1-3-1 and make it exciting, which everyone called it boring. And Fleury got the hook. He kind of deserved it. It also served as a really good wake-up call for the Penguins, which they didn't take, because they didn't play good at all in that game. So going into Game 4, you're thinking to yourself, yeah, exactly what Chris Vasilis just took. Rest in peace, Marc-Andre Fleury's confidence. And that's the point I'm about to talk about. For Game 4, they went with Matt Murray. He got the win, that's good and all that. But the fact that Marc-Andre Fleury was not allowed to have that opportunity to bounce back in Game 4 last night, and it went right to Matt Murray. If I'm Marc-Andre Fleury, I'm very mad, and I may, if I don't get that chance to bounce back, I may not waive that no-move clause, and I may force you to leave Matt Murray unprotected in that expansion draft. Because while these guys are professionals, they're also human beings. That's a little devil's advocate right there for you.
Number 4.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, you put yourself into a sticky wicket again with the whole goaltending situation. You have to make a choice. You have 2 number 1 goaltenders pretty much at your disposal. Matt Murray was going to be the man this year in the playoffs until he got hurt before Game 1. It happened. Marc-Andre Fleury, and they brought up Game 6, his Game 6 outing against the Caps. The Caps dominated that game. He came back in Game 7. He made a couple great saves. I put it more toward the Capitals, pretty much going into what the heck happened in the last 52 minutes of that game, more than Marc-Andre Fleury, and it was more the structure of the Penguins' defense, making sure that the Capitals shot themselves in the foot on both goals, which they did. And Marc-Andre Fleury made a couple of huge stops, especially in that first 8-minute flurry until that power play completely killed the momentum for the Capitals. With Matt Murray's concern, he made 2, like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, he made 2 great saves at the beginning of the game when there was no score. But you got to think of the goals Fleury gave up in Game 3. Deflection from the behind the net, and Mike Hoffman banked it off of his skate. He can't help that. Defensive breakdown. Third one was a guy right in front of the crease. And then, the 4th goal, he just would probably have been one he could wish he had back. By that time, the dam had broken. It was 4-0 Senators. The place was going crazy, and you had to make a change or call a timeout. You want to keep that timeout in case you have to make a challenge. So the goaltender change was made, and Matt Murray got in. And I think Kevin Weeks made a great point last night. Was talking in the postgame show was talking about how Matt Murray getting in Game 3 helped him that much more in Game 4, being able to play in a mop-up situation in the same building you were starting Game 4 and getting himself back into the rigors of the Stanley Cup playoffs, which made him that much sharper for Game 4.
But at the same time, would you have given Marc-Andre Fleury the starting Game 4 to give him that opportunity to bounce back? Because it seems like the moment that Murray started backing him up, that leash became extremely, extremely short. Or almost non-existent.
I would have given Fleury to start, but also had the leash shortened. So if Ottawa started getting going with a goal or two, you would have pulled the trigger a lot sooner, and then that would have been the end of Marc-Andre Fleury. But being as I said, we talked about Mike Sullivan. People were saying that he was the cause of this series, Rob Rossi, when he has actually been pulling all the right strings at the right time. I mean, I blame more for him going 11 forwards and 7 defensemen and throwing off all that little rhythm they've had going on. They went back to 12 and 6, I think, last night by putting Josh Archibald in the lineup. And they had much more continuity on their lines. Plus, like we said also, is Mike Sullivan likes tweaking the lines mid-game, putting other guys up with Malkin, putting the guys up with Crosby, putting Crosby and Malkin together on a shift every so often by giving different looks to the Ottawa Senators, especially since Ottawa has that last line change, making it more impactful every shift they take.
And yes, Tony, I mean, that would be easy for Fleury to do because the Ottawa Senators wear red uniforms just like the Capitals do, so that's perfectly an easy thing to do. So, and every team wears white when they're on the road too, so it's not that hard to do.
Nope.
But, I mean, it's a very interesting thing that, I was really surprised that Fleury didn't get a chance to try to redeem himself. And that was something that kind of blew my mind a little bit. So
at least with the shorter leash. I mean,
yeah, exactly. You give him a chance to redeem himself. You shorten the leash, so you go, okay, if you give him 2 quick goals, we're pulling you. Where you give up a goal in the first 5 minutes, we're pulling you or something like that. Because obviously the confidence isn't there.
Because you see this also when Braden Holtby gets pulled. The next game, you see not only a better effort out of Holtby, you see a better effort from the 18 in front of him. And if Fleury was in net for Pittsburgh last night, that probably might have been a shutout last night. I mean, not taking anything from what Matt Murray did, but I just feel like Pittsburgh would have locked down even more in their own end and made it almost impossible for Ottawa to get any speed through the zone. It didn't take until late in the third period when they started hitting that line with speed, you started seeing Pittsburgh start giving up great opportunities. Because I think it was at one point 28-16 in shots and goal for Pittsburgh. Ottawa's got to hit that line with speed, and I'll tell you, through the whole playoffs, Mike, there isn't a more exciting team in the last 2 minutes of a game than the Ottawa Senators, especially when they're down a goal and have a goalie pulled. The chances they get, just ask the New York Rangers how many times they got tied up.
Last night.
Just last night. I mean, a lot of people don't. That one play the defenseman made at the point, or I think it was maybe Mike Hoffman diving to keep the puck in with like 8 seconds left to give him 2 more chances at the net. I mean, this is going to be this series could be 7 games.
Now, per Tony, Canada won 4-2 over the Russians, so they made that comeback. And they will play the winner of Sweden-Finland, which will be a little later today. Yeah. And so that means Kuznetsov and Orlov and Grubauer are all now out of the World Championships, which leaves just Nicholas Backstrom for Sweden. What do you think about that line that features Nicholas Backstrom with William Nylander?
Talk about a generational gap right there. I mean, William Nylander was already ripping it up in the World Championships, but then Backstrom came. I think Backstrom's got a goal and 2 straight and a point in all 3 games he's played there.
I think the first game alone he had a goal and an assist.
Yeah, I mean he's Nicholas Backstrom. Yeah. Team Sweden, one of the favorites of the World Championship, to win the World Championship, and then they can add probably the most underrated superstar in the NHL in Nicholas Backstrom in the championship rounds. Amazing concept. And King Henrik Lundqvist in net. Not a bad couple of additions as you go into the medal round part of the World Championships.
Yeah, and it's actually, since we're talking about World Championships, we gotta talk. Did you see the clip of the Italian defenseman falling down and scoring on his own goal by accident? That was tough.
In between that and the two soccer ones I saw with the soccer goalie putting the ball down and an offensive player behind the soccer goalie taking the ball and scoring with the goalie has no idea that the guy's behind him. Those three definitely got a womp from me. I was like,
one of the great things is that one of the things I really do like about the international tournaments is that there's a lot more respect to the game itself. If you notice, after every game, they do we can't do that in an 82 game. You can't do an 80. Oh, that's right. The Russians are in the bronze medal game. Sorry, we forgot about that. Who watches the bronze medal game? but you can't do it during an 82 game season. But what I really do like in these tournaments is the player of the game from each team. And I really like with France when Pierre-Edouard Bellemare won it for his team, and he took it, shook the higher-up's hand, skated right to his goalie, and handed his player of the game award to his goaltender. That is really cool to see that type of respect. And then, of course, apparently yesterday, when Henrik Lundqvist was being awarded his player of the game for Sweden, somebody yelled out "Rangers suck," and he just smiled and laughed.
Yeah,
it's come on, and this is in Paris, France, I believe, because I think the championship's being played in Cologne, Germany. So it is you just look at that and you just laugh at that silliness.
Well, you can do that more in the short-term international type of tournaments with more of the country ambiance and the international flair. The thing I love about the international game time is that little extra ice they get to be able to create their magic on the ice. And granted, it would take a little bit of the money out of the owner's pockets, but an extra 5 feet around that rink would be a beautiful thing for some of these amazing offensive players to go. That's why I like the old school rinks where you had different dimensions. You had home ice advantage back then. Now everything's 200 by 85. You don't have that home ice advantage that actually was the actual ice or the actual conditions.
All right. Well, it's that time, Bernie. Where can the people find you on social media?
Here.
Oh, wait, that's right. You don't have Twitter. Never mind.
Here, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. every Saturday, morning, afternoon, night, whatever. Just get ramped up. Seat belts on. Game 5 tonight. Anaheim, Nashville, 7:15 NBC. You want to see a great series? Nashville's going to have a counterpunch tonight by Anaheim winning in overtime 4-3.
All right, and you can like the show on Facebook at facebook.com/experiencehockeytalk, and follow the show on Twitter at experiencehockey. I'm tired.
Let's get some phone calls next week, boys and girls.
Yeah, I haven't been sleeping well, not because of the playoffs. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Experience Hockey Talk, serious hockey talk for serious hockey fans. And until next Saturday, we will see you on the ice. No, we didn't have the silly people, so we don't have to.
We didn't have any sillies tonight, but hey guys, next week, call. We want to start getting your ideas on the GM for the Washington Capitals. What do you do this offseason, Caps fans? Give us a call. We're going to give you plenty of time. We'll have a nice little banter about it and see what other ideas besides the devil advocate stuff we had this week. You never know.
We did that because we needed to figure out how to fill time.
Well, no, that was good. That's what serious hockey talk for serious hockey fans. But also, as the weeks go on, you need to get your GM stuff in because the real GM's going to start doing stuff that you might wanted to do before everything else started going down. So get your things in now when you have everything in play. before he starts putting like Barry Trotz in,
Yeah,
still,
before he starts
in, or if he trades someone that you didn't have traded, get your thoughts in. We definitely look forward to chatting with you, the Caps fans out there, and also hockey fans in general. We got 31 teams starting in next year.
And that hockey facility was unbelievable in Jersey.
The skate zone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually the Flyers practice facility.
So you ever played there?
No, I've been there once.
Yeah.
But all right, guys, we're
See you
rolling
guys next
out.
week.